What's up, squad? This is Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to talk about the national vote coming up for Switzerland on June 14th, where they're going to vote on the so-called sustainability initiative, No 10 Million Switzerland. That's right. The Switzerland government is putting forth a proposal to cap the Swiss population at 10 million people. Currently, the Swiss population is in the low nines, probably about 9.1 million people. So this gives them another 10% to go up to hit to 10 million. Now, what this does, it allows the country, if approved, to implement drastic practices to halt the raising of the population at when it hit 9.5 million people. Now, this is really interesting because this is one of the first initiatives I've heard about this. Most of human history, more people generally meant a better thing, more services, more ideas, more labor, more capital, human and economic, more and more soldiers to invade your enemy, a larger base to tax. These were all benefits. And as we look forward into the future, as we're evolving with technology and AI, and I'm noticing that a lot of developed countries currently, their population have already declining, or faces a steep decline in the near future. And the populations that are actually growing are more challenging parts or less developed parts of the world, such as sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. So you see this imbalance and outlook. What is good for the goose is not good for the gander, because these developed countries are proposing ideas and they're going to be proposing technology that benefits and helps them advance or gain influence and power using a smaller population base, because they're going to have to work with what they have. Conversely, you're going to have countries in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia that are going to have a lot of mouths to feed. So they're going to have to invest at an industrial scale if they want to maintain and advance their standard of living. These are people that's going to need jobs. They're going to have to provide some type of security, things that will allow the political stability that's required for economic development. And now they no longer have some of these developing countries on their side, because in the past, developing country, as they increase in productivity, that will also increase productivity once that technology reached to different countries. Now you get into a situation where technology doesn't have to travel. You can have that in their home base or the developed country. Only thing that really travels is resource extraction. So these countries are still going to need resources, but they're not necessarily going to need the people in their home country. So this cuts down on a couple of things. And what this does, and Switzerland is known for having problems with migration, especially, and it's even been put forward by the Swiss People Party that we're getting too many foreigners and not the right type of foreigners. Of course, the vast majority of Swiss migrants is coming from neighbors such as France and Germany, but they're also getting migrants which they think are lowering their quality of life. And they may just lump the French and Germans in there as well, but that's also going to include migrants from Eastern, Southeastern Europe, Islamic migrants out of the Middle East, and migrants from Africa. And these migrants, some of them are economic migrants to help fill jobs that are desperately need migrants, such as hospitality, healthcare, construction. But some of these migrants are also asylum seekers. These are people that probably don't have the best education. They're leaving dire situations. And due to Switzerland being caught up in the Shenzhen area, they are susceptible to the free movement of people inside their country, because they're in Europe and in the Shenzhen area. So you have the situation where Switzerland aren't too happy with that. There have been some bouts of violence, some cases of bigotry or prejudice that has been made famous throughout the world news that has occurred in Switzerland because of this. So what they're doing is really a affront to the global order. And I wonder, is this some crazy fantasy dream of a extreme right-wing party or leadership, or is this the new normal? Are you going to start seeing more countries as they get more technologically advanced through AI and robotics also say, look, we don't want to challenge our culture. Because before countries wanted to grow, they would bring in migrants and they would give up the short-term gains of a homogenous country or culture to try to take advantage of that level of development migrants bring. Switzerland is saying thanks, but no thanks. And could you see other countries, especially ones that are a lot more conservative, start to follow this path? So, and I think the crazy part about this, because this completely reminds me of colonialism. It reminds me of colonialism in the degree that you have a wealthy center, and their only use for the outside world was resource extraction. But unlike colonialism, there is no sense of white man's burden here. There's no sense of moral reciprocity. Hey, we're getting rich from you guys or your resources. Why don't you come to our schools? Why don't we help invest in your country? That's not what the Swiss are saying. The Swiss of all countries, like there are very few countries on this world that have benefited from global integration like the Swiss. The Swiss had rose on the back of global access. If the Swiss companies, their mass conglomerations, had to rely on the mere consumption and extraction of resources from Switzerland, with its measly population of only 9 million people, do you think they will be as wealthy as they are now without global giants that they host, such as Nestle or Nestle or Glencore, their UPS and other banks, their healthcare pharmaceutical companies? Switzerland has made the world its playground, and in doing so has made Switzerland one of the wealthiest countries on the planet. And for them to say, hey, we don't want you guys to come here and sully our country after we went to your country and got the resources we needed and utilized the labor that we needed, I find to be beyond the hypocrisy of old colonialism. This is something the world has never seen before, when it comes to this level of discrimination and the level of benefit that Switzerland get from accessing the people and resources of this land. So this is definitely going to be something to watch. I'm really anticipating or really excited to see how the country vote, because, as I said, who knows? Is this going to be a new normal? Or are you going to start to see more countries do things like this, where you have developed countries, more homogenous countries that say, you know what, we can't get out of some of these treaties, we can't say no asylum seekers. So let's just vote in a population cap. Hey guys, sorry, door closed, stay where you're at. And you have this two-tier global society where you have we always say, the have-nots and the have-yachts. And the have-yachts only go into the have-not lands when they're extracting resources with soldiers and corporations. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please comment below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.